Also today marks the 30th anniversary of the Kent State shootings. 4 students were killed by the Ohio National Guard during anti-Vietnam War protests. CNN's Gary Tuckman brings us the words and pictures that have endured.
It's an image etched in our minds, a reminder of how the Vietnam War came home via Ohio's Kent State University. It was a Kent State student who took this picture. His name is John Philo.
My initial reaction was to flee, stop myself, and then notice this woman run up, kneel down beside him.
The woman was actually a 15-year-old girl screaming in horror as Kent State student Jeffrey Miller lay dying. One of 4 students killed on May 4th, 1970 by Ohio National Guard troops called to campus to quell Vietnam War protests.
It was like, oh my God, I can't believe it. So everybody came out, and there was kids laying on the ground, running all over the place.
Bob Carpenter was the news director of the Kent State student radio station. Breathlessly, he told his listeners on that day of National Guardsmen opening fire, claiming their lives were in danger. But Jeffrey Miller was 85 yards away when he was shot. And Allison Krause, William Schroeder, and Sandy Scheuer were even farther.
There isn't a day in my life that doesn't go by that I don't wake up or have some conscious thought of this. I was in Vietnam twice before. I didn't have the fear that I had on this campus. Helicopters swooping down, tear gas, bullets. You know, it was a scary thing. It's still, I get goosebumps even talking about it right to this moment.
Other Kent State students at the time also took photos of the carnage, like Paul Topol.
When I saw the students in their pools of blood, I said, this is it. It's got to stop. The protests, the war, everything, we've gone too far.
John Darnell was also a student photographer.
I like to call it murder. I find no justification and no justice.
Protesters were angrier than ever right after the shootings, and faculty members were warned by the National Guard's commander students must disperse immediately. It was then that the late Frank made an emotional speech to students that likely prevented more bloodshed. It was recorded by radio reporter Carpenter.
I don't care whether you've never listened to anyone before in your lives. I am begging you right now, if you don't disperse right now, they're going to move in, and it can only be a slaughter. Would you please listen to me? Jesus Christ, I don't want to be a part of this. Please. I'm begging you.
The students, including 9 who were wounded, then evacuated. Alan Frank is the son of that professor and was also in the crowd that day.
Absolutely saved my life and hundreds of others.
But of course, Kent State will always be remembered for those whose lives ended on that day. 4 young people protesting the Vietnam War, shot and killed in their own country. Behind me, the very parking lot where all 4 victims were killed 30 years ago today. Each of the spots is now a permanent memorial. Small light posts around the spots, and as we speak, vigils are taking place at each of the spots. And this one right here, where 2 people are holding candles maintaining a vigil, this is the spot where the famous picture was taken. 15-year-old Mary Vecchio was right here, Jeffrey Miller right next to her. That's the situation right here in the parking lot. Across from me, about 500 feet away, a permanent memorial is set up right now. It's a memorial that's been here for several years. At that memorial, 4 concrete pylons represent the people who were killed. It also remembers the 9 people who were wounded during the shooting and the 58,000 people who were killed during the Vietnam War. Today, the vigils will come to an end at precisely 12:24 p.m. Eastern Time. That's the exact moment the shootings took place 30 years ago today. A program will then begin, and this will be the first time that all 9 people who were wounded and the family members of those killed are all together in one place. This is Gary Tuckman, CNN Live in Kent, Ohio.
Thank you, Gary.
Well, we should also mention, coming up next hour, we'll talk with Bobby Stamps, who was one